I'd like to move on to actually get to some of the interview piece, sort of as promised. Well, we've talked a bit and shown a bit about what's going on from an adoption trend standpoint, where the inhibitors are. Now let's turn it over to Deutsche Telekom, Sebastian, and another Monday, Arjen, and let's talk a little bit about what you can do to actually mitigate some of these challenges and achieve success. So Sebastian, welcome to the webinar today. I'd love for you to take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us about your role in the company in which you work.
Well, thanks for having me. And well, my role. What you call intelligent automation is what we call at Deutsche Telekom our smart digitization program. So the idea really is, how can we use modern and new technologies to digitize our whole business? And begs the question, what is our business? Well, we are Germany's biggest telecommunications company. We run a landline business, mobile business, TV business, all that. And luckily, we still do have a lot of customers. Alone, 35 million mobile customers and approximately 15 million broadband customers. And that also means we do have a lot of customer interactions. And that's actually where the company I work for, which is the Deutsche Telekom Services unit, which is our service unit at Deutsche Telekom, comes in, because we deal with all these customer interactions we have. And well, we do have approximately 100 million customer interactions per year. A lot of calls, a lot of letters, and you would be surprised how many handwritten letters we are still getting, and a lot of social media contacts. And that's what we really try to manage, and what we really try to manage as efficient as possible. As you can imagine, you know, having 100 million customer contacts per year with about 30,000 employees is a relevant cost factor for Deutsche Telekom. However, at the same time, we really want to make sure that even so, of course, we want to reduce cost. At the same time, we want to deliver best-in-class customer service. And that's really where I and my team come in, because that's what we really do. We try to use intelligent automation to leverage automation, to really free up resources for things and topics that we really benefit our customers. And well, as described in the chart before, it's really not so much about laying off people, but it's really about getting the people to have the time and the potential to do the right things that really impact our customers. Well, and that's, after all, what I do, and where RPA and intelligent automation has really helped us a lot in the past years.
Super. So thank you for that background, Sebastian. Now, I mentioned in my comments, I know from having had the opportunity to interact with you and learn a bit about your automation journey, you've been roughly going down this path for more than 4 years at this point. But let's go back in time when you were first contemplating automation, I think somewhere in the range of maybe late 2014, when you were thinking about pushing this, setting up a program and pushing it forward. What were you really hoping to achieve? You just mentioned it wasn't so much about laying off people, but you've got this gigantic services business. What really were your objectives that set you on this path?
Well, to be completely frank, back then when we started with automation, one of my roles and tasks was to run the workforce management for our technical services unit. And in technical services, you have two key challenges. One is you really have to keep up with SLAs, and the other thing is call amounts and workloads constantly change. You know, if you have like some technical problems in network, one of the momentarily a lot of people will call you, and an hour later probably no one is going to call you anymore because everything is working properly. So you really have a hard time getting the right amount of people that you really need to fulfill the customer demand. So we're really facing the question, how can we become more flexible without having, you know, to hire a lot of people who would have nothing to do for most of the time, and, you know, still be efficient. So that's when we actually stumbled over the whole RPA topic. Because we, aside from calls, we have a lot of, you know, ticket-based activities. And RPA really seemed to be a good option to deal with those ticket-based activities. You're not so much, as I said, about, you know, laying off people, but really to become more flexible even in times of high workload. And that's where we really started. And that's how I really got to RPA.
Interesting. So I hear in that theme, it's the theme that I'm hearing increasingly in the marketplace. It's this idea of you want to do more with what you have and really getting that flexibility. Alrighty then. So where did this really start? So you had a vision. You stumbled upon another Monday along the way. I loved when we were talking, you had showed me this slide and you said, well, we were getting started on this journey when RPA wasn't even called RPA, but maybe you could spend a couple minutes telling us about where did you even start? How did you contemplate moving forward on this journey, and where did and how did another Monday come into the mix?
Oh, that's very true. You know, back then when we started, RPA was really something that didn't exist in Germany. And the first time I actually read about bots was when I was reading a document about a benchmark meeting we had with another telco. And back then I thought, like, you know, that robot stuff, that sounds really interesting. And I remember another Monday didn't even have a homepage in English. It was still Dutch, you know, so it was kind of difficult to even get in touch with them. But anyhow, we still decided to do so. And in 2014, that's actually when we started to have an RFP. And surprisingly enough, we had only 4 companies apply to our RFP. You know, like, you know, Deutsche Telekom wants to do robotics. Who is interested? I guess if we would do the same thing nowadays, it would be 20, 30, 40, 50 companies who would get in touch with us. Back then, it was only 4. And, well, we quickly figured out that 2 of those 4 really didn't have the capabilities to do what we needed. And well, after the RFP, 2 companies were left, and we actually started to work with those 2 companies, and one of them was another Monday. And yeah, so when we started, indeed, it wasn't called RPA. We actually created our own name for it. We called it Front-End Assistance, and because we thought it sounded more friendly than calling it bots. I thought, like, you know, if we call it assistant, people will probably like it more. So that's how we started.
Got it. Okay, thank you for some of that background there. Arjen, I'd like to pop a question over to you. So another Monday, you reached out, you prevailed in this RFX situation with Deutsche Telekom, just a great name. So how did you go about this? Was this just a matter of another Monday selling Deutsche Telekom some software? Here you go, you've got some licenses, have a nice day. I suspect that probably was not at all what happened, but why don't you tell us? How did this all transpire?
Yeah, well, let me first start that the reason we're called another Monday is because we believe that automation is one of the tools you could actually use to make work much more satisfying. We are always kind of abhorred when we hear abbreviations like "Thank God it's Friday," because that means that the workforce is happy to go home. And we all know that happy employees perform better. So when they're happy to go home, there might be something wrong. And when Deutsche Telekom reached out and told about their challenges, their challenge was not about cost savings. Their challenge was not about how to make it in a certain kind more efficient. It was much more customer focused. And at the same time, it was employee focused to make sure that we actually do something really worthwhile. So we then went in there, and it was this period of time when nobody was really knowing what this was going to cost or what it was going to be. So this is also the moment we decided jointly that an entrepreneurial approach, which means only be paid for success, was very important. So we built up a partnership where it was not about I sell you a license and go away. It was a partnership about we are going to jointly realize tangible results. And because we have tangible results, we both will be financially happy. And it was this kind of partnership that actually has shown why over the period of for now over 4 years, we still have been friends and partners. It means that because we have aligned success, we have aligned goals, we have an aligned mission, we can be much more successful than when you only sell the software. And that's probably one of the reasons why we are so successful together.
Super. Thank you for that, Arjen. And that's, I think, one of the key elements that you just mentioned there, that aligned objectives is really, really important. Particularly, I mean, going back to sort of the late 2014, or as the slide here shows, in early 2015, when you were embarking on this, you were really covering some new ground. So Sebastian, looking at so you've got sort of a nice time chart up here. And so it's sort of project start, we see the good old reference to the proof of concept, and going through, I mean, really you pick some areas to focus, you executed, and we're obviously having this conversation at the tail end of January in 2019. So congratulations, you obviously convinced your executive team and overall your company to embrace this. If you really think about what were the critical factors that helped you get from POC to production and now to a sponsored program, I mean, what did you ultimately do to firstly convince your executives to fund this, and then to convince perhaps your company to embrace it?
You know, Arjen mentioned that we had a true partnership, and there's actually a really key point here, because in the very beginning, Another Monday was actually the greatest partner we could have, because I recall when we were talking to them first time, they said, like, you know, if you want to do a POC, do something that has impact, do something that has business value. And I believe it was actually important that we did it, because if we had just done a very small POC with just some non-impactful process, we wouldn't have convinced anybody. People would have probably said, you know what, you could easily have done that with a macro. You know, that's just, you know, nothing new, nothing special, nothing that we should really invest in. And we probably wouldn't have anything to show off to our finance people in terms of, you know, we actually do something that has impact. So in my opinion, it was really key that the first process that we choose for our POC was complex enough to really impress people, and at the same time had enough volume to actually see some effect in terms of how much workforce we would need for the things we are doing. And those are the things we actually covered. And I have to say, I still, you know, I love to think about that time, because it was just, you know, something that does not happen very often in big companies like Deutsche Telekom. Because back then I went to the board of management, and I showed the results of our POC, and I was not expecting much actually. But after 0 minutes, our CFO was like, you know what, that sounds really great. You should make that big. Please come back in 2 weeks and tell us how you're going to make it big. And it was actually, you know, good, because and tell us how you're going to make it big and what you need to make it big. And that's what we actually did. And then we give an estimation on what we think we can achieve with RPA, and how many bots and transactions we think we can do in 2 years. And we told our CFO, if you really think we want to make it successful, then, you know, you need to sponsor a team. We need to make it easy for everyone to work with RPA. That's what is key. Only if it's easy for everyone, people will start working with it. And yeah, then we went back to the board of management and told them the whole story. So it's like, you know, that's what we want to achieve, and that's what we need. That's what, you know, what we should do. And he was like, okay, I trust you guys. Let's do it. Let's get started.